So I'm joined by Nick Defossez of ILD Games, and we're going to be talking about SquatBot. Thanks for taking some time, Nick, to talk to us about this game and about your background.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you. So to get the conversation started, why don't you give people a pitch for SquatBot? Tell them what it is and why they should be interested.
Yeah, so SquatBot is our mobile platformer that we wanted to make really fit to mobile devices. We didn't want to have the on-screen analog stick, the on-screen buttons, because we didn't want you to be more focused on where your hands are than on playing the game. So for SquatBot, we boiled it down to two inputs, jump right or jump left, and that kind of just lets the player have complete control as they're going through the levels and lets us make really tight platform challenges.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I first started looking at SquatBot after you guys kind of reached out to us, on how simple you've made the mechanics of this platformer. So I was hoping maybe you could talk about maybe some of the iterations of that or how it kind of developed over time, and if there were any unexpected challenges. You know, you'd think with a simple mechanic that would be simple to implement, but I've talked to enough developers to know that that is entirely not the case. So
Yeah,
maybe you could touch on some of the challenges you ran into in getting it to work.
yeah. So one of the big challenges was just making sure that the momentum that SquatBot would carry with it as you were jumping left and right felt really good to the player. We didn't want something where if they missed a jump for like a split second, suddenly they lose all their momentum and die. But we also didn't want something where you land on the ground and you're trying to slide to a stop, and we just carry your momentum all the way off the platform. So there's a lot of iteration there, just getting the exact mechanics of the jumping and the sliding and the momentum feeling really good. One of the biggest points, I guess, was the jump that SquatBot does now. We had originally started with just a really simple parabola, just jump up, fall down at the exact same speed. And we found out that was just really hard for a lot of players because you let go of the button and then just your jump would carry you really slowly all the way down in a perfect arc. And players would want to let go of the button and fall where they let go. So what we do now is we actually multiply gravity by like 3 times, I think, once you let go of the button. And you just kind of drop really nicely down onto whatever platform you're currently on top of. And that addressed that issue.
That's a cool solution.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk about some of the iterations. There's a really great image I've seen from SquatBot, and I'll put it up on the screen so
Yeah.
people can see of all these different iterations, and you've kind of got it like them jumping, kind of like an evolution of SquatBot. I
Yeah.
thought that was a really powerful image. I love seeing how a game changes over time and how the like art style changes. So what was that process like? Did you have an idea for what you wanted SquatBot to look like, or is it something that grew over time?
Yeah, so our first version of SquatBot that we wanted to have was kind of we were just inspired by this little wind-up toy idea, right? Where we were thinking we need a character that obviously will be hopping because SquatBot's not going to be running around; it's just going to be little jumps. And we're like, well, there are those little wind-up robots that they jump across the desk and then they fall off the desk, and that was kind of our natural starting point for where we were designing SquatBot from. And you can see in that really early first sketch, it's just kind of like a little box with a thing behind it. There are actually a couple sketches earlier than that where it was even more so just those little robots on the 2 legs. I don't. Hopefully, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay,
Little, like,
okay.
old-timey
Yeah,
tin wind-up toys. Yeah. I know
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what you're talking about.
there's just a lot of me sort of drafting on a piece of paper, just doodles and ideas. Then our animator, I kind of handed that off to him. I'm like, hey, here's kind of where I'm going with this. And he had the great idea to make SquatBot have a lot more charm to it than those wind-up toys. Where SquatBot, has that eyebrow that's really expressive as you're jumping, kind of going up and down with him, bouncing around. And SquatBot has that, big, cute eye. That was all totally our animator. And actually, there was a lot of back and forth just trying to get SquatBot's design to be really this nice, solid, clean-looking design with the sort of mascot character that we have, where we just really like it now. We kind of look at SquatBot and we're like, man, I really just want a plushie of SquatBot, and that was our goal.
Merchandising.
Yeah, not even to sell, just like I want one on my desk.
That's a good sign when you've got a character that is that adorable. You want him to occupy your deck space.
Yeah.
I was hoping you might also touch on kind of how SquatBot is different from some of the other games you guys have worked on.
Yeah.
Because it seemed, in kind of perusing some of your guys' past work, it seemed like it was a little bit of a different trend to me. So I wondered if that was something that just kind of came about or something that was intentional.
Yeah, so with SquatBot, the kind of impetus there, well, there was actually a kind of long history behind the development. The short version is a long time ago, two of our founders had decided, hey, we kind of want to make a game engine editor. Just in our spare time, not for profit or anything, make just an open source game engine editor because they thought it would be a fun thing to do. I told them, have fun with that. I'll be going doing something else.
You guys go do that crazy thing. But...
Yeah, it is like that sounds insane to me. So, meanwhile, I'm doing my own thing, making my own games and stuff, and then they come back like 3 years later, like, "Hey, we're done. You want to make a game in it?" And I'm like, "Wait, you guys actually finished that? Really? Okay, sounds great." and they really just wanted something small and simple to kind of put their engine editor through the paces, stress test it. And I had this idea kicking around in my head for a long time for this little 2-button platformer on mobile devices, because I had made a Mario Maker level of all things that required the player to sort of crouch down as Mario and essentially play SquatBot in Mario Maker and just move only by jumping, or else you're going to hit your head on these pillars coming down and you fall. And that actually had a lot of traction. There are a lot of people who played the game and just would play it for hundreds of lives, that level, trying to beat it, because apparently it was also a very hard level. And that kind of gave me the idea, like, hey, there might be something here. Why not just take that to a mobile device where the controls actually make even more sense and see what we can do with it? And that was sort of the original inception of SquatBot.
Oh, that's really cool. Maybe we can then kind of transfer that original inception, and you've kind of talked about some of the background. So what is the story of ILD Games and kind of what got you started in indie game design?
Yeah. So me personally, back in college, I had released a game on the Xbox Live Arcade. It didn't really do much, and that was kind of the first game that I released personally. And then kept doing it in my spare time, got a day job, did the whole actually getting paid thing. And then a couple of years into that, me and the other founders, we had kind of been talking about how all of us wanted to get into indie game development. And it sort of came to this point where, as we were finishing up SquatBot, we're like, hey, I think we can actually, we work really well together as a team. We have a game now under our belts, and let's just kind of push this forward and start doing this full time now. So for me, SquatBot is the second fully published and released game. Actually, that's not really true. I've got a board game as well, but not related to video games, at least. And then for the rest of the team, I think SquatBot is their first fully published game. And it's just been really exciting taking the step forward and going full-time indie.
Super cool. So you mentioned that, you kind of cut the idea for SquatBot in like a Mario Maker level, but what were some of the other inspirations for SquatBot that kind of got you thinking about designing this game? And also, what were some of your inspirations kind of generally, those games that stuck out to you as like, oh, I want to make games because I just finished this game or something like that?
So one of the other games that was a big inspiration to us just for platforming is the Donkey Kong Country series. All of those games have this great, tight, sort of kinetic platforming that you're doing, and we really wanted to capture that same kind of feel in SquatBot, just on a mobile device. That way you can take that with you where you go. And Celeste is also a more modern, great game for that sort of platform experience. And then more generally, one of the first games I ever played was the original Legend of Zelda on the NES, and that was kind of when I'm like, man, I want to do this. I want to play more games. I want to start making games. As a little kid, I was making my own little paper cutouts of Zelda and stuff, and like pushing them around on a table, and that was my first game.
Papercraft version. Yeah, man, that game has inspired so many people. It's always wonderful to hear that. So we always ask what other games in the indie community are kind of sticking out to you as somebody that is making a game.
Yeah.
What is an indie project or a couple indie games, that you're excited for from kind of that viewpoint of being a creator?
Yeah, so one game that stands out, I saw at the Midwest Gaming Classic. We had an indie showcase there, and I met one of the developers, and he was a great guy, and the game was a ton of fun. It's called Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Yeah, it's this
great title.
Great title. It's this party game where you've got little blocks falling from the sky in all sorts of shapes, and you're trying to stack them up to a certain height. It can be cooperative, competitive, and there are a lot of different sort of parameters that change up the experience. And it was just a whole lot of fun in the downtime, like after the convention closed or whatever, just sitting down and playing a couple of rounds. Like I think there was one mode where you got like a quiz master asking you questions. If you get it wrong, you get like round shapes that you got to try to stack on there somehow. And it's just so creative. So much fun, and that's one of the big ones. There's another one, Slug Slasher. Unfortunately, I do not remember the team's name who made that one, but if you look them up on Twitter, you'll probably find them pretty easily. And they're making this sort of side-scrolling platformer beat-em-up game, and it's just the level of polish they have there is amazing, and the art style is just really stand out. It's not quite pixel art, it's not quite painted stuff. It's just really a really interesting look, and the whole thing just has this really great layer of polish over it. So I think that one's also an indie game in the lesser known sphere that I think really has some potential.
Awesome. Those are some great suggestions. We'll have links to those, and also to anything you want to know about SquatBot, all in the description. So if you're interested in any of this, go check that out. Nick, thank you for taking a little bit of time to tell us a little bit about SquatBot's history, kind of where it came from, and a little bit about you and ILD Games' history as developers. Please keep us in the loop as your future projects and SquatBot continues.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun talking about SquatBot.